Hi, I'm Josh, your English learning guide, and today on English Hacks we have another idiom of the week. This week's idiom is a dime a dozen. First, I apologize if some of the marker is a little unclear. I have to get new ones, so hopefully I will have those soon. The meaning of this is very simple. It simply means that something is extremely common. Might even be too common, but it's just something that is extremely common. And I couldn't really think of a good image for this, but the phrase is based off of the idea of a dime, which is 10 cents in American money, and dozen means 12. So it would be 12 of the same item, not 12 different items, 12 of the same item. So you could buy 12 of a particular item for 10 cents. So obviously this isn't literal. We're not really talking about 12 items for 10 cents. We're simply saying that something is so common that you could buy it for 10 cents because the value of that thing is so little. Etymology, a dime is originally 1/10. That comes from Old French, which comes from Latin. Same thing as a dozen, that also comes from Old French and Latin. Now, the original meaning of a dime a dozen was a bit different than how we use it now, so we won't talk about that because I don't want to confuse you with how we actually use this phrase today. But let's look at some example sentences here. So, people like him are a dime a dozen here. So let's say that I go visit you in your country or town or wherever you live, and we're walking and there's this really mean guy or something, or this really nice guy, doesn't matter. And I say, oh, that guy's really rude, or oh, that guy's really nice, right? And you can say, people like him are a dime a dozen here, meaning that many people, maybe even most people, in this area that we're talking about are like that. They're very mean or they're very nice, depending on what we're saying. The fish in this pond are a dime a dozen. So you might have a pond, sort of like a lake, but smaller, that has no fish. Maybe there's no fish in it. Or you could have a pond that has a lot of fish in it. So you can say, if there are a lot of fish, like just everywhere, you just see them swimming all over, you could say that they are a dime a dozen in this pond. Now, next we have a sort of little dialogue here to give some more context. Again, let's say you and I are talking, I'm visiting you, and I notice that you don't have any pine trees. And where I live, there's lots of pine trees. So I say, oh, it doesn't look like you have any pine trees here. And you say, oh, we don't have those trees. And I say, they're a dime a dozen where I live. So that means pine trees, in this case, are very common where I live. You see them everywhere. Okay, so this is a pretty simple idiom. On the surface, it doesn't seem to make any sense, as most idioms don't. We're not really talking about a dime, meaning 10 cents. And we're not even really talking about a dozen of something, meaning 12 of that same thing. But it should be pretty clear how the meaning is just that something is very common. That's all for this week's idiom. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to leave them down below. Leave a like if you liked the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.